Everybody, and welcome to our Otterbrush live event. Today we have a special guest, holistic health coach and parenting coach, Sarah Schindler. I said that right?
Mhm.
All right, how are you doing today?
I'm great. It's great to be here.
It's awesome to have you. So, as our audience comes in, please tell us where you guys are from, what time it is, what state you're from. I'm from Flagstaff, Arizona. I think I've told you guys that probably a million times. But again, my name is Tiffany. I work here at Otterbrush. And Sarah, where are you joining us from?
I am in Missoula, Montana.
Missoula, Montana. And you were saying before it's been pretty chilly still.
Yeah, it's still chilly. It's good, but it's not. It's we're on our way to the warmer days.
I know, I can't wait. Hi, welcome, Sonia from, let's see,
North
Sonia
Carolina.
Wilson. I just want to give you guys all a shout out for those that are joining early. You get a little sneak peek to this, but we will be giving away one free family pack at the end of this live. So be sure to stick around and be commenting in the comments because whoever is most interactive is going to be randomly selected by one of our team members watching here. All right. So, Sarah, I'm so excited. Are you ready to jump in?
Yeah, ready when you are.
Today, she will be sharing all things about your career being a holistic health and parenting coach, right?
Yes.
Before we jump into that, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself um, and how you chose to go that path of parenting coaching?
Well, my name is Sarah. I have a 6-year-old boy and a 4-year-old daughter, and me and my husband, we've lived in 4 states in the last 5 years. We've moved around quite a bit, but we've liked it. We're settling down here in Montana. It seems like. But my oldest, my son, he was born with a heart condition. And so the right side of his heart never formed. And so during pregnancy, we found this out, and he had to have 3 surgeries. He had them all three. One was right after birth, one was at 4 months, and then one was right before he turned 3. And so because, well, during pregnancy, yeah, I didn't really know a lot. I didn't prepare for birth, for one. I was just trying to learn more about his heart condition. And I discovered a lot of health information in the process. And just like, it just kind of snowballed, like learning about birth, learning about our choices, learning about children, how to support them as they grow in the best way through nutrition, through emotional support, how to support ourselves as moms when we're recovering from birth. And the first 7 years in a child's life is when they're developed the most. The first 3 years, their brain grows more than it ever will and faster than it ever will in their lifetime. And so these first 7 years
Wow.
are really important. It's really vital for a child's life. They start to develop beliefs about the world, beliefs about themselves. So the language we use around them is really important, the nutrition we have. I live by the 80-20 rule, like 80%, like being very intentional, doing, eating well, being intentional with what we're saying, what we're doing. And then 20%, we don't really have to worry about that because we are going to lose it. We are going to eat ice cream. We are going to do unhealthy things. So it just kind of gives that like ease of life and reality of life, and just helps supporting our children and supporting ourselves through it all. And so, yeah, I became a holistic health coach to learn more about the health side. And I'm also actually training to be a therapeutic nutritional counselor. So I'm in the middle of that right now. So I've got
Well,
lots on my plate.
yeah, I'm excited to hear them all. That is absolutely nuts and also inspiring. How is your son now?
He's
Just so
doing
like,
really well. Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, he's doing really well. He actually, they say that he's like the poster child for his condition because they told me he was going to be small, he was going to be behind developmentally, he was going to have a lot of challenges, and he's done really, really well. He does. There are some things that happen, but he's like overall, I've been able to support him nutritionally and emotionally and help him regulate. He's a little more sensitive to different things because he's had surgery during some major milestones in a child's life. But overall, he's doing really well, and I just attribute it to being very intentional and watching his nutrition And he's actually big for his age. People think he's like a year or two older than he is. So, I mean, I'll just be a bragging mom because
Yeah.
I think he's doing wonderful. He's doing really great.
That's amazing to hear. So let's get into it. So that's your background, obviously, and took you down to that path of parenting coaching. Can you let our audience know what exactly is a parent coach?
A parenting coach is someone who helps parents, obviously. We help, it differs from parent to parent, but it's a safe space, a judgment free space for parents to come and talk about their struggles, their triggers. We all get triggered by something, and a lot of times our kids trigger a lot in us. And so going through that, just having someone to talk to can be really helpful. And then giving tools and guidance to help manage those emotions, those big feelings, helping just little things that you can shift with your kids, um, and shift yourself to just feel better overall.
And how would you say this differs from like what most people know as therapy?
Traditional therapy, some therapists are doing this kind of platform, this way of doing things, but traditional therapy is just talk therapy, and you sit down and you talk about what's going on. Like I said, that's really great and that does give release, but there's not often not as much of the tools of things to take home to help you live with your daily life, to be able to like manage that in a healthier way.
Right. Right. That's so
Does that answer
interesting.
it?
Yes.
Okay.
You also said before that you have a background in holistic health. How has that like changed your philosophy with just parent coaching to normal parent coaches?
I take a 360 approach to health overall. With there's the mind, body, and the soul. So our body is our physical body, what we're eating, how we're moving, and that it's all connected. So how that works with the way we eat and the way we move affects the way that we're feeling and thinking. And there's our mind, and then that affects our soul, which is our purpose here on life. And our children, they're born perfect, and they're born like just being them. Like they're like, I'm hungry, I'm gonna cry. Like they're just they're just being them, and they get shaped as they get older. And it's our job as parents to teach them and show them like discipline is just it means to teach. So we're here to teach and guide our kids, but also help them keep that sense of self, that sense of self worth, that sense of who they are, trusting in their intuition. Um, and a lot of times adults have gotten away from that. So it's integrating all three of those together and seeing where there might be a gap in one of those or all three of those situations. Because a lot of times somebody's really good at one or two and is missing the other. And they're like, why am I feeling off? And so when we figure out what that is, they're like, they start to feel better and they have more energy and just more patience. And the night just gives you more peace in your home, which is what I find is what most families are looking for, just like getting rid of
Right.
that aggravation and just having more peace.
I love that. Um, my question for you, this is like more of like a personal thing, but like with the shift of parenting overall, there's like a huge switch to gentle parenting. Have you like seen that even with your clients? Have you seen issues that have come up with gentle parenting?
Yes. It's kind of the same. The gentle parenting, intentional parenting, conscious parenting, they're all intertwined, but there might be some subtle differences. But the thing that comes up is there's a lot of guilt and judgment from the parents on themselves. Like, I'm not doing it good enough. I'm not doing it right. I still am feeling triggered. Like, why can't I get this right? Like, why do I still get so upset? I'm trying to be a gentle parent and it's not working. So it's really about shifting that and looking at it and showing a different perspective and a different way to think and a different way to see that situation so that you can have that feeling of being a gentle parent. Oh, I see Sonia's asking, what is gentle parenting?
Do you?
Can I go ahead and answer that?
Yeah, you can answer
Okay.
that.
I'm taking your job, sorry.
No, you're
um,
good.
Gentle parenting is a way of, it's kind of based on the child more so. I don't have like a specific, I don't know like what if you googled what gentle parenting would be, but this is my interpretation of it. It's being really conscious and intentional, which means you are making choices, you're not reacting so much. You you parent based on what your child needs specifically, not so much of what you're supposed to do, how things are supposed to be. It's kind of like what works for you and your family. What are your values? What do you want that to look like for your family? Because every family is different. And being able to shift everything in your life, the mind, body, soul aspect, into your child and just your family as a whole, and being able to like notice the difference, especially when you take, if you have more than one child, they're completely different personalities, so you may not be able to parent them in the same way. Like one kid may respond to a certain type of discipline differently than another. Like both my kids are completely different in that regard. So I have to parent them differently. So it's just being aware and noticing those little things. Does that answer the question, Sonia?
Yeah, that was perfect. Brooke also asks, what are your best parenting tips and tricks?
That is a tough question actually, because that, well, it's such a broad question. Um, because there's so many different aspects to parenting, but my biggest thing I would say would be to shift your language. A lot of things are, we tend to just like react and say, no, don't do this, go there, blah, 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 like this and this and this. And we're just like telling and ordering our kids around what to do. Um, but shifting little things, like if they're like, say it's bedtime and they're like, Mom, can I have a cookie? Instead of saying, no, it's bedtime, like we're going to bed, you can say, you can have a cookie tomorrow at lunch, and just shifting those little things. Like, can we go to the park? Like, we can go to the park this weekend. That would be great. Which park do you want to go to? Or whatever it may be. Just, I think shifting the language is one of the best things that you can do to help both you and your kids. It also is really good for couples too, helping with the language shift.
You're just an all-in-one coach, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all intertwined. It's hard to just like stick to one thing because it really
Right.
matters. Like, because sometimes I see parents will talk to me about, and another tip and trick is like being aware of what they're eating too. Because parents will say like, "Oh, my kids are having all these tantrums," but when we go back and we look at what they're eating and what time of day they're eating, some of that is associated. Like having sugar too close to bedtime, they're not going to bed and they're fighting and this and that. So it's like just being aware of those types of things. So it just depends. It's individual for each family.
Another question I have for you is, when do you typically find that parents turn to a parent coach? Like, is there a perfect time or not?
I wouldn't say there's a perfect time, but generally they're kind of like, I've tried all the things and it's not working and I don't know what else to do. Like I can't do it on my own. They start to have that realization and they're like, I just want help. And um, yeah, that's usually the trigger. And a lot of times too, they're like, I listen to podcasts and I read the books, and it's not everybody, but a lot of times they are like, I've done all these things and I just don't know. Like they just really, like, the common denominators are like, I just don't know what to do anymore. I feel so exhausted and it's just a struggle every day. And that's usually when they're like, oh.
You're like their lifeline. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I have one mom. She's like, "You're my sounding board." Like, she just, yeah, somebody to just talk to about what's going on. Because sometimes too, like with husbands and wives, couples, they're both so in it that they can't see outside of it. So it's good to have like someone outside of the situation. And the same with asking our parents too. They're still too connected sometimes to really like give sound advice.
right.
Not always. Like a lot of times they are great, but it is nice to have somebody outside of you to really like give you a new perspective.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Just a reminder to those who have joined us tonight, we will be giving away a free family pack on the topic of family. from OtterBrush. So be sure to stick around to the end. We'll be picking one of our participants in the comments. But moving on, what does your process look like, Sarah? So, like when people decide, okay, like they're turning the flag in, they're like, I need help, please help me. What do you have packages? Do you have programs? Like, what can they expect when they come to you?
I have both. I usually have a call with somebody, and it's just a free call to kind of talk and see if we're a good fit to work together. You know, if it seems like we get along well and we want to work together, that's one part of the aspect. That's usually the first step, and just seeing like what the different struggles are, the concerns. I worked with moms from pregnancy all the way to 7. I do have sometimes older. On the health end, I do work with people from all ages too. But the generally it's like, you know, I can work with pregnancy moms, I have birth classes, I teach postpartum classes, I have packages where if we just want one-on-one sessions where you can just kind of that's the sort of therapy model where you just talk about what's going on and then we have a conversation and then you leave with some tools there. And then I also have programs that parents can join that are several weeks long, and it's a guided. There's trainings and there's just different things to go through step by step to help get you to a certain point. So there's a few different options with those.
And for like all of those, would they meet with you like once a week, or are you like on call and they're just calling you up?
Well, I do have a somewhat on-call package where, if you're familiar with Voxer, it's a walkie-talkie app where you can just like talk to each other back and forth. So
Mm-hmm.
if you had a question at 4 p.m., I am not available at 4 p.m. I can answer you back at 7 or the next morning or whatever, but we can have an ongoing conversation. So I have a 30-day Voxer package that people can do. So that's kind of that like on-call thing
Yeah.
that works really well for like parents with newborns when they're like having that what's going on with my baby, something's going on, like is this normal, like that whole thing
Right.
works out well. But even with moms with older kids, they like having that option too, because just sometimes they're like my kid just was out of control and I don't know what to do about it, and so just having somebody to talk to in that regard. But the one-on-one calls are more those are we just go by ear with those, kind of if they buy a package of more than one, it's kind of like, okay, well, we'll assess at the end of the call. And sometimes I'm like, I think you should come back in a week. We should meet up again in a week. Or sometimes it's like, we could do it anytime between 2 and 4 weeks. You work with your schedule. So that depends. But the programs, those are every week. We meet once a week. So,
Gotcha.
yeah.
And how often do you most parents see like results? Like, is it a thing that they have to go through the whole program, or what can they
No, that's the good thing. It's all about your mindset and how willing you are to making the changes that you need for your family. But I see like clients are like within a week they're having, if they start to implement the little things. I don't give people a lot of things to do at once because it's overwhelming and it just is not realistic to have like this whole to-do list. So I keep it down for just like, here, shift these few things. Sometimes it's just like, try, not giving them any sugar after this at 4 p.m. and see what happens. And they're like, oh my gosh, they're sleeping better. Or like, why don't you try this supplement might be really helpful based on what's going on. Or these language shifts, just giving them little tips that they can do. And then usually they're like, oh wow, this really worked. Or I've been doing it every day and I'm seeing how it's changing things. So
Can you give us an example of like one that you thought was like monumental, like a family that switched something and you're like, I helped do that, you know?
well, it's not me, it's
I
them. I'm
know.
not. Um, the first one that comes on is a mom who had a 3-year-old and lots of tantrums and just really intense tantrums. And so based on what was going on. Then she had an older child too who was irritated with her little sister throwing the tantrums. So we giving her little shifts on how she could relate to her daughter in a different way, and helping her also just recognize that that's just part of children, and trying not to fix them. That's another parenting trick, is we don't need to, we always want to fix our kids, and like I want to make them stop doing whatever it is they're doing that I don't like we can't do that. So once we start to release that, it's really helpful, and it just releases that energy because they feel our energy. And so when we can control our energy, she shifted the way she reacted during those moments, and her child shifted too. And she didn't stop having tantrums, but she noticed they didn't last as long, and things just changed within their family dynamic. And so it was just really fun to hear. And every time we talk, she's like, something new it's different.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I have a 3-year-old, so I can relate
Yeah.
to those
I love
tantrums.
that age though. I think like it's trying, but it's so cute.
Yeah. They say the darndest things. You're like, you were too cute to be mad.
Right.
But yeah, I can relate to. Just like I think every parent can, to that struggle of
Mm-hmm.
there's moments where you're like, oh, I need help.
Yeah. Yeah. We
um,
have to take care of ourselves a lot. That's one of the biggest things too I teach, is like how to take care of yourself and getting different ways that you may not have thought about, because it's not like you don't have to go to a spa for the weekend to take care of yourself, because once you do,
right.
you feel better, and then you're not so irritated by your kids.
How often do you think a parenting coach is fixing something within the parent themselves or the child? Like, do you feel like you're giving more advice?
It's mostly the parent that we're working on our reactions and our beliefs, because we develop beliefs in those first 7 years of our lives. So whatever that looked like for us has shaped the way that we are today, developed our personality going on. And I find that a lot of things that trigger parents, and I've learned this within myself too, what triggers us, we can trace back to like under 10 years old, to a moment that happened that made us feel that this is right or wrong or whatever that may be. I do teach a lot of like neuroscience is part of what I teach, like how our brain works, and I study a lot of that because that makes a huge difference in the way we think, and when we and our thoughts create our emotions. And so when we're reacting based on our emotions, we're not thinking, we're not being
Right.
intentional, we're not being aware and conscious of what we're doing, we're just reacting. And so slowing that down, recognizing where those reactions are coming from and how to shift that for the individual. It's really awesome to see that, and that transformation in the parents, because then the kids start to feel that.
Right. I'm not sure. Are you familiar with Daniel Tiger?
Of course, yes.
Yeah. So Otterbrush has a Daniel Tiger brush, but it just reminded me of, he's like, when you feel so mad and you want to roar, you take a deep breath, count to
Yeah,
4.
yeah, we can
Yeah,
learn a lot from Daniel Tiger.
a lot.
But
Daniel
yeah,
Tiger
it's
has been
true.
my parent coach lately, but
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's a good one. He's like a beginner's parenting coach. But then when he stops
yeah,
working, then
right. He works for like preschool, and then that's when we turn.
yeah,
Can you tell us more about those? You said that you work in a range of ages, newborn to 7, but you also work with parents before then. Can you talk a little bit on that, of what involved with postnatal and prenatal?
yeah. I've worked with parents like wanting before they're about to have kids, trying to like one woman, she had really high anxiety and she wanted to get off her anxiety medication. So we worked together to kind of help her shift that. I do not prescribe or get anybody off medication, but she wanted to learn how to optimize her health in that way before she had a baby. And then we also worked together for her gave her a postpartum plan. So I give with the birth um, there's the birth classes that teach them. It's a lot of more like mind body connection and options and being informed of all the choices that you have. And then the postpartum care, a lot of so many parents neglect this postpartum period. And really, the first 3 months is called the fourth trimester, and after the baby is born. And that's a really special time for bonding with the baby, with mom, and with anybody else in the house. If there's older kids, even if you have like other people living with you, parents or other family members, it's a really important time for bonding, and it's highly neglected. And there's a lot of health things that moms need to do to take care of themselves to recover fully, because we don't think about the recovery period. Like, yes, birth
Right.
is natural, birth is normal, but a lot of things go on internally and externally that don't just go back the way they were. So learning those kinds of things are really important. And then I also have worked with, older women who are trying to get healthier in some way, um, either with both mental and physical. It's hard to like, I can't really separate it. It's all mixed in and intertwined.
Right. Right. Um,
Does that answer the question?
yes. Yes.
Okay.
Lovely. We have another question from the audience from Brooke. She says, do you find rewards or consequences tend to work better? Like if you clean, you can then go to the park. If you have asked multiple times for things to be done and they aren't, do you take things or privileges away?
This can be a really tricky situation. I have found that punishment doesn't work very well. It it works in the short term and it works in the moment, but it teaches them to do something out of more. It's more fear based. Um, we all do it. I'm guilty of it. Like, if you don't do this, I'm taking away whatever. That's another way where we can shift our language too and turn it into a, like, if they're not cleaning up their toys, that is fine. Like, but it's like, if you don't clean, we're not going to the park, or you don't get to go to the park if you don't clean. More of, hey, let's clean up so that we have time to go to the park, because if we don't get everything cleaned up, we're not going to have time to go to the park. Or if we don't get ready for bed, we're not going to have time to read the books. And I love reading books. Like, that's my favorite thing to do. So let's get all the things we need to do to get ready for bed, and make it lighter, and just shift it. You're saying the same thing, but it's not in a threatening way. Like, you do this or you don't get that, or do this and you get that. Eat all your dinner and you'll get dessert. Like, it's the if or that. It's kind of like, well, let's do this, and, or the you can do the and, or you can also do the, like, make it turn it into like their own responsibility in a way. And sometimes they're just like, they're two or whatever, and they're like, what, I don't understand what you're saying to me. Or they're just like into whatever they're doing and they don't want to do it. But we just have to individualize that for the kid. um, I think that it teaches the kids that it's not, you don't have to have punishment, because a lot of times too, this is what I find when I work with the parents and we're kind of working on themselves. They've had that typical childhood of that, like, you don't do this or else, or you do this or else type situations. And it's affected their work, it's affected their friendships, it's affecting their marriage. And you don't realize it, but it does. It's really subtle. So it's all about just shifting the language. It's not so much, and making the punishment fit the crime too. Like, don't, um, if they don't get ready for bed on time, like, no TV tomorrow. Like, that doesn't make sense. They don't correlate that. Or, like, if they're slamming the door, taking away something doesn't always um, help them realize, like, that's not the best thing to do. So finding something that they can work with, that could work. Maybe it's taking off the doorknob or something. Like, let's be teaching them respect for their things. Or, you want to throw your toys, don't throw your toys here, throw a pillow instead. Or, it's just shifting those little things and tailoring it to the kid too. because I do ask a lot, like when I'm working with the parents, I'm like, tell me about your kid. What's their personality like? What are the things they like to do? Because that makes a big difference. Because it's like they're like beating themselves up, like repeating over and over and over, and that punishment, that consequence isn't working because the kid doesn't, it doesn't resonate with them. Like they're just like, I don't even care about that. So that was kind of a long answer. I hope did I answer that, Brooke?
I love how you say you individualize, like for kids. Do you feel like when you meet a new client, you basically have to create a profile of like who the parent is and then who the children are and their personalities?
Absolutely, yeah, because they're all different, and sometimes we get along better with one kid than another. One kid is quote unquote easier than another kid. Um, and it's just, and sometimes you have one kid and you're just like, it's this power struggle. And that's again with the consequences and the punishment, it creates this power struggle between mom and kid. And it's this constant, like, they feed off that energy and they just keep doing it and they don't realize it. They don't recognize it. They don't really understand. They kind of, it's like a tick for them sometimes. And they're just like, I just got to do this next thing because this is just how I'm feeling. So it's up to us to like step back and be like, okay, assess the situation and who is my kid, what's going on, what are they feeling right now. Sometimes it's like just give them an apple and all of the behavior issues will go away because they're hungry and they're
Yeah,
just having these issues because they need food.
right.
um, so it just depends. It's so broad, like I said, but
um, so for Otterbrush, a lot of people come to us and say that the Otterbrush helped them with the toothbrushing battles. But I would love to hear from your perspective, what are other tools along with the Otterbrush that can help make brushing a more seamless, peaceful experience for parents?
well, I have to say the Otterbrush like saved our toothbrushing battles because it was like they would push the toothbrush away with their tongue, and it was I was just like like just like be still, just let me brush your teeth, and they're like I don't want to do it, and like just it was just not enjoyable, not my favorite time of the day for sure, especially at night. Mornings was never as difficult, but in our case, like those back teeth were the worst. I could not get it. And I was noticing that their breath was awful. And I'm like, okay, I'm brushing their teeth twice a day. Like they're, just again, I'm very intentional about how we eat. So I'm like, is it the food? Like, what is it? And it dawned on me, and I was like, I'm not getting their back teeth. So I was trying to figure out. And I'm like, husband, help me. Like, how can we do like tag team this?
Open
So
their
we can
mouth.
still just like if you've experienced that, it's like they just get that tongue and they push it away, and you can't get
Yeah.
I'm like, I just can't. I don't know what else to do, and they can't. They're not going to do mouthwash or floss in those situations.
Yeah.
So what I learned, it was kind of like divine intervention. I found out about, like I saw an ad for OtterBrush, and I was like, that I'm trying that, and like within 2 days, their bad breath was gone, like, and it has not come
Oh,
back.
wow.
And they're like, this is so much fun, and they can do it by themselves. And sometimes they still, they'll just sit there and hold it because you're supposed to go back and forth. I'm like, let's go back and forth. I'll help them on
Yeah.
certain days, but like, I'm like, go brush your teeth, and it's awesome. I have to like when we first got it, I had to be like, okay, it's time to stop brushing your teeth. Put the toothbrush down. Let's get your pajamas. Let's get dressed for school. Like whatever it is. Yeah, so they feel so proud and excited that they can do it on their own, and then it helps with like us not having to deal with the bad breath either.
Yeah. It's a
At
win-win,
least in
right?
my case, anyway. Maybe not every parent has that situation, but
What animals do your kids have?
we have a lion, a tiger, no, a lion and a monkey.
Yeah. You have Lenny and Maddie, I think. Yeah. So was it easy to implement that into your routine then? Like
Oh my
I'm
gosh,
assuming. I
yep,
hear
it
a
was.
lot like a parenting stuff is like all about routine. Like that
Yep,
makes a happy kid so they can depend on it. Um,
mm-hmm.
so was that easy to implement? I know it's different than like traditional brushing is.
We had no problem. They were a little awkward getting it in their mouth. They were kind of unsure about it. but the music and the lights, and they were just giggling and just thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And the sticker chart too was really helpful in the beginning.
Yeah, I would love to know
To
your
do a sticker,
yeah.
so that was fun.
Do you think like what's your opinion on sticker charts and things like that, incentivizing like good behavior?
I'm not a fan of it for like good behavior. You do this, you get a sticker. That was just more of like, um, I never used it in that way, like brush your teeth and you get a sticker. It was kind of just more of a fun game, like, oh look, you brush your teeth in the morning, let's put a sticker on there. But I
Yeah,
never used it in that way. Like if you
right.
don't brush your teeth, you don't get a sticker. Um,
It
because
was more
again,
just
that goes back to that like punishment that like if you don't do what I say, you're a bad kid. And that's
right.
not what we mean, but that's kind of what how they start to take it. And that can cause problems as we grow. And so that's the short version of my sticker chart.
No, I love that. And I love that it's just all about like creating a very peaceful and like loving environment for your child.
We're
Um,
making it fun. And again, I like to also reiterate that we will lose it. Like it's okay to lose it from time to time. That's one thing that parents are like, I don't like I'm trying to be a gentle parent and I'm not supposed to be upset. I'm like, yes, it's okay to be upset. Like just ease everybody's mind. Yeah,
yes.
like Brooke said, a fun activity versus reward. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that my daughter uses Lenny the Lion, this one right here. I think that's the one that you have.
Yes.
Um, she she likes it because it's fun, you know, then as a
Mm-hmm.
3-year-old. So I do agree with like the stickers. It's just adding another element
Mm-hmm.
that's fun.
And I
Um,
like that you can use the toothpaste as a mouthwash. My 4-year-old doesn't quite do it, but my 6-year-old thinks it's really cool to because he hasn't been spitting, and now this is helping him practice. Because I'm like, look, you can like squirt in your mouth and then spit it out, and he thinks it's a fun game. So that's helping him learn to spit out the toothpaste, and so yeah, just another side note.
yeah,
That's why I like the Otterbrush so
I
much.
love that. And I like that you can also use it for adults as well. Like the phone when I would travel with my own, I didn't have to pack two things. I just had one.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, for those in the audience, this is your time to ask your final questions. Um, and if we don't have anything, Sarah, I'm going to ask you, is there anything, any advice you could give us all tonight of like, what's one thing we could take away as parents and would make our home more peaceful? Is it that intentional speaking that you were talking about?
Learning to trust yourself. Like, you know more than you think you know. And just realizing that and understanding that will really help you overall make better decisions for your family. Understanding your child, like just really knowing who they are and what they like, what they don't like. Just figuring out that dynamic, making things fun. Like we get too serious sometimes. So we got like I'm super guilty of that. Like I get really serious and I have to stop myself because I'm like, we've got to do this, and I get very like organizational, and I'm like they don't care. Like let it
Yeah.
go. I coach myself all day long. Like just like full disclosure, but just like let go, have fun. Like they're little kids. Like when you make it fun, like shifting like toothbrush battles to an auto brush, like even just that shows like the difference in teeth brushing, what that makes. So if we can take that concept and apply it to other situations, it can help. Like even sometimes in a tantrum, I'll just start like being silly, and occasionally they're like, "Stop, it's not funny." But sometimes they're like, "Mom, you're so funny," and it just like changes the energy, and they start laughing, and we just kind of move through it. So
I love that.
yeah.
One other question from Brooke. She asked, "What is a way?" Oh, she said, "What is a way to find peace when you're about to lose your temper? Always looking for more ways to learn to find peace."
That is recognizing what your thought is before you react. because we go from my kid did this and then I react. So if you can take that pause, that power is in the pause, and take a deep breath. Most unless somebody's hurt or in danger, usually there's nothing that needs to be addressed immediately. Like if they're in danger, you want to go and take them out, or if they're hitting somebody, you pull them away from the situation. But otherwise, it's taking a breath, taking that pause. And when you start to practice that and you learn some more tools in regards to that, you'll start to notice, and it just becomes a habit. Like a habit is something that you do automatically, like brushing your teeth again. You don't every day, you're not like, let me get the toothpaste and take the cap off and put it on, and now I'm going to do my bottom teeth. Now I'm going to do my, like, you just do it automatically. And that's what starts to happen when you start practicing that. Just practicing that pause will be so huge in those moments when you're triggered and you're like going to lose it. And it doesn't mean you're not going to feel what you're going to feel, but it will help you think about your reaction in a better way.
All right, we have another question from Diana. She said, do you think that self-care has a lot to do with creating a peaceful home also? I feel like sometimes we get so caught up in the day-to-day that we forget to care for ourselves. And sometimes those frustrations can really come out unintentionally.
100%. Like self-care is super important. And I can't remember if I was saying this before we got on or while we were on, but like it doesn't have to be this weekend spa moment. It's a little bit every day, finding joy. Something that brings you joy every day can really make a big difference. And then, there's a whole nother aspect, a lot of aspects to healthcare, but even just finding that one thing, like for me, I like really good coffee. And even if I'm not able, like I don't get to sit down outside and enjoy my quiet cup of coffee, like, but regardless if there's kids running around and I'm doing things and getting ready, like I'm enjoying every sip of that coffee because I just love it. And I have a little espresso machine. Like I treated myself, and actually my husband treated me and got me a little, it's like a tiny little espresso machine, and I make one every morning. And like that is one of the things that I can do every day to bring joy. So just finding that for you is just one small way to do self-care. But it really, when we're not taking care of ourselves, it's just these small little irritations that happen to us like internally that come out externally. So we need to really work on ourselves because it's that whole like fill your cup type thing. If you just, you kind of explode if you don't have anything for yourself. And that can be hard, especially when they're little, but there are ways to do that, to implement that into your life.
Yeah. And I feel like that's so relevant during these times, especially culturally, where it's all about the hustle and the next thing to do. But I love how you said it doesn't have to be anything big. It's just finding the small moments in the
Mm-hmm.
day to just remind yourself, like, this is for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. And just noticing around you. There's lots of little things that we do that we don't realize that are creating that stress within us. So just recognizing, finding those things. So
Yes. So on the lines of self-care, we are giving away a family package to a lucky randomized winner. One of my team members in the background telling me it is Brooke Tolgnong. I'm not sure how to say her last name, but you won a family pack. So you will be getting 2 toothpaste, one for adults, for children and adults, and then a brush of your choice for a kiddo and for a grown adult. So we will be reaching out to you about which character and color you would like for yourself. But thank you so much for participating in today's live. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us.
yeah, thanks for having me. The questions you guys had were really great. I thank you guys for participating and being a part of this.
Yes. And with that, good night, everyone. And we will see you at our next live.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.